On the edge of a dying colony, a girl with glowing skin is feared by all. But no one knows why machines rise when she whispers. When a quiet engineer offers her warmth instead of fear, their bond awakens something buried deep beneath the ruins. An ancient vault waiting to be opened. But what happens when the key is not a weapon, but a soul? And what if the world isn't ready for what she remembers? Would you like a voiceover-style version of this too? If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. On a distant mining colony called Nolvin's Reach, the sky was always dark. Ash fell like slow snow covering the metal roofs and broken roads. The sun was too far, too weak to warm the ground. The air was thin, heavy with dust and silence. People didn't smile here. They worked, they survived, and they feared things they didn't understand. In the southern edge of the colony, beyond the broken rail lines and near the collapsed elevator shaft, there was a place nobody visited. The walls there had collapsed. Long ago, the buildings were just skeletons of metal and glass. In that forgotten space lived a girl. No one knew her real name, but those who whispered behind closed doors called her the Shimmer. She was small and thin, with long black hair tied in uneven braids. Her clothes were stitched from old cloth and plastic, and her boots were made from patched rubber. But what made people afraid was her skin. It wasn't normal. It shimmered with color, changing like water in the light. It turned soft silver when she was calm, deep purple when she was anxious, and flashed amber when she was afraid. No one knew how or why. Children were warned not to go near her. Vendors shut their stalls when she passed. Even stray bots rolled away if she came too close. Some said she could speak to machines. Others said she could break them just by looking. But no one had ever seen her do harm. Still, fear has sharp claws, and she was alone. She lived in a broken transport pod, half buried under old cables and rusted panels. The door barely closed, and the inside was dark even during the day. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't beg for food. She picked through scrap piles and ate from discarded ration bins. Sometimes birds landed near her. Once an old cleaning bot followed her for a day, chirping quietly. But the people stayed away. Then came Joran. He wasn't like the others. He was new, just arrived from a deep earth outpost. His job was to fix old systems, security units, power coils, comm lines. He had quiet hands and soft eyes, and he didn't mind the cold. People ignored him mostly, thinking he was strange. He liked broken things. He talked to machines like they could hear him. Maybe that's why he noticed her. One afternoon, while repairing a damaged antenna near the old bridge, Joran saw something move. Behind a pile of scrap and broken cables, there was a flicker of light. He stepped closer, slow and careful. That's when he saw her. The girl was sitting on the ground, cross-legged, holding something in her lap. A small scout drone, rusted and dead. Her fingers moved gently over its surface, and her skin glowed soft blue. The drone buzzed, then its eyes blinked open. Joran froze. He had repaired hundreds of drones. This one had no power cell, no signal wire. It shouldn't have worked. But under her hands, it rose. Slowly, carefully, it floated into the air and spun once like it was waking up from a long sleep. The girl whispered something. The drone turned and flew into the sky. Her skin turned golden, warm like the first light of morning. Then she looked up and saw him. Their eyes met. Joran didn't move. Neither did she. A moment passed. Then her skin flickered to amber. She stood quickly, stepped back, and disappeared into the wreckage without a word. Joran stood alone for a long time, staring at the place where she had been. He wasn't scared. He was curious. He had spent years fixing wires and circuits. But what he saw that day wasn't about wires. It was something deeper, older, alive. That night, Joran couldn't sleep. He thought about her hands, about the drone, about the way she looked at him. The next morning, he walked past the market. Whispers filled the air. "She's dangerous," someone said. "I saw her near the power grid. Machines listen to her," another added. "She's cursed." We should report her, someone muttered. Joran said nothing. He kept walking. But inside, something stirred. That evening, after work, he returned to the ruins. He didn't expect to see her. He only left something at the edge of her shelter, a small battery cell still warm. When he returned the next day, it was gone. The night after that, he left a food pack and a coil heater. On the third night, he found her waiting. She stood near the scrap piles, arms crossed, not hiding. Her skin glowed soft silver in the low light. Joran raised his hand, not too fast. I brought something, he said, holding out a folded blanket. She stepped closer, just enough to take it. Her fingers brushed his hand. Her skin turned warm gold for a moment. Then she stepped back. Why help? She asked. Her voice was dry, quiet, unsure. You looked cold, Joran answered. She didn't reply. They stood in silence, surrounded by metal and dust. That was the beginning. She never gave her name, and he never asked. He called her the girl who never spoke when he talked to himself. But slowly, night after night, she spoke more. Not much. Just enough. She told him her people were once called the Marathi. They didn't build machines. They guided them. Long ago, after a war, most were lost, hunted. Only a few survived. Maybe only her. Her skin wasn't a curse, she said. It was how she communicated. Feelings became colors. Thoughts became light. Joran listened. He didn't question. He only nodded, and fixed things, and shared heat. One night, she said softly, I'm tired of hiding. Joran looked at her, his face kind. Then maybe you don't have to anymore. Above them, the stars blinked faintly through the thick sky. Far away, deep beneath the colony, something ancient stirred, something waiting, something listening. The girl stood beside the boy who had not run, and for the first time, her skin glowed not with fear, but hope. The wind moved slowly through Nolven's Reach, carrying fine dust that made the air feel sharp and dry. Lights flickered above the colony's walkways, and the hum of dying engines echoed like whispers in an empty tunnel. People stayed indoors, wrapped in silence, pretending they didn't notice the girl with the glowing skin or the boy who had begun walking toward the southern ruins each night. Joran had become a quiet part of the colony's rhythm, but now people started to talk. The old man at the junk stall narrowed his eyes when Joran passed. A repair clerk whispered to her partner when she saw him pick up extra food packs. Someone even told the power station guard. He's been seen going toward the broken zone. Maybe he's helping that girl. The guard only grunted. No one wanted trouble, but fear always found a voice. Still, Joran didn't stop. Every night after his shift, he returned to the ruins with something small in hand. Sometimes it was a tool, sometimes a battery, sometimes just a warm drink capsule. He never said much. He only placed it near the entrance of the broken transport pod where Kerala lived and then sat quietly, waiting. She always came. At first, she said nothing. She would take what he left and return to the shadows. But slowly, she stayed longer. She asked simple questions. She watched his hands. She listened to his stories about broken wires and forgotten satellites. And she began to tell her own stories, too, softly, slowly, like pieces of a puzzle coming together. Kerala told him she had not always lived here. Her people, the Marathi, had once traveled with ancient tech. They were not soldiers or rulers. They were caretakers. When the great machines of the past stopped singing, the Marathi were the only ones who could wake them. We were not made to control, she whispered one night. We were made to listen. Joran asked, where are the others? Her skin turned gray, gone, hunted, feared. Some vanished, some gave up. I stayed. He didn't ask more. He only handed her a small metal box wrapped in cloth. What is it? She asked. Open it, he said. She did, slowly. Inside was a small heater coil. It was simple, handmade, and old, but clean, repaired. Ready? Her fingers touched it gently. Her skin glowed golden and warm. Then she looked at him and said, "Thank you." He nodded. They sat under the broken sky, the faint light of old stars above them. Nearby, old machines hummed quietly, almost as if they were listening too. Deep within the colony, Security Chief Vorn was watching. He sat behind a wide desk in the control center, looking at the movement logs. Joran's ID tag had been placed, under quiet observation after strange power surges were reported near the southern ruins. Now the data showed a pattern. Every night, same path, same destination. Vorn didn't believe in stories. He believed in patterns. He believed in order. And he didn't like things he couldn't predict. "She's been triggering machines," he said to his officer. "Nothing major yet, but something is waking up out there. Keep watching him. If he steps out of line, we'll handle it." Meanwhile, Kerala had started to change, not in her form, but in the way she moved. She no longer hunched her shoulders or hid her face. Her voice came a little stronger each night. Her color stayed softer, more peaceful. When she smiled, just once, Joran thought the whole scrapyard seemed brighter. "Why do you come back?" she asked him once. "Because you shouldn't be alone," he answered. Her skin flickered gently with warm pink light. Then one evening, Kerala arrived before him. She was waiting when he climbed over the rusted barrier. In her hands was something wrapped in fabric. "This is for you," she said. Joran blinked. "For me?" She nodded. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small repair tool, not new but cleaned and sharpened. She had fixed the broken grip and polished the head. It was a simple gift, but Joran held it like treasure. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You fix broken things," she said. "I wanted to fix something too." The words stayed with him long after he returned to his quarters. The next day, the colony felt colder. Maybe it was the shifting winds from the dying sky, or maybe it was the eyes that followed him through. The market. Someone had painted a mark on his door, a circle with a line through it, a warning, a curse. But Joran ignored it. He knew what he had seen. He had watched Kerala bring a dead drone to life without power. He had felt the calm in her presence. He had seen the sorrow in her eyes when she spoke about her people, and above all, he knew she was not dangerous. Fear was that night he brought something special, a folded solar blanket made from old ship sails. Soft on one side, powered on the other. He had saved it for years. Kerala met him near the scrapyard edge where a broken metal wall stood like a forgotten gate. "What's that?" she asked, her head tilted slightly. "A gift," he said. He opened it and showed her how it worked, how it could catch the dim light and turn it into warmth. She reached out slowly, brushing his hand. Her skin glowed again. Deep gold mixed with pale blue. "No one's ever given me something like this," she said. "Then they don't see you," he replied. They sat beneath the stars, the soft hum of forgotten machines all around them. Joran told her a story about a bird he once saved on an old outpost, how it had broken its wing but still learned to fly again. Kerala listened, her hands wrapped around the solar blanket. Her skin shimmered quietly with soft colors. Blue, pink, white. "Maybe the colony will never accept me," she said. "Maybe," Joran answered, "but I do." They sat in silence after that. But it wasn't empty. It was full of small truths, of quiet hope, and of something growing between them that had no name yet. Above them, a faint drone floated past, its light dim. Watching, recording. Unknown to them, the colony's eye was now focused on this quiet place. In a room far away, Vorn watched the feed and said, "It's time. Prepare the team." But in that moment, at the edge of the scrapyard, Kerala leaned her head against Joran's shoulder, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't cold. The next morning, Joran didn't show up at the scrapyard. Kerala waited near the broken wall, her hands holding the solar blanket he had given her. The wind was colder that day. The sky had turned darker than usual. Her skin glowed with quiet worry, soft gray that flickered with pale blue. She waited until the last light faded behind the dust-covered hills, but he never came. Deep inside, the colony. Past locked corridors and quiet offices, Joran sat behind an energy barrier. His wrists were bound with magnetic cuffs. The room was small. No windows, no air movement. Only a faint hum came from the walls. He had been taken in the early hours by officers in black suits. No reason given. No questions asked. Across from him sat a man named Vorn, the chief of security. His voice was calm, but his eyes held no kindness. "You've been seen meeting with the Marathi girl," Vorn said. Joran stayed silent. "You know what she is," Vorn continued, "and what she might be capable of." "She's not a threat," Joran replied quietly. "You're just afraid." Vorn leaned forward. "Fear keeps us alive, boy, especially on a place like this. There's something waking up in the southern ruins. Machines are responding, power spikes, signal pulses, all of them tied to that girl." Joran didn't move. "She hasn't hurt anyone." "Not yet," Vorn said, "but she will." Across the colony, at the edge of the scrapyard, Kerala was no longer alone. She had returned to her shelter after waiting for Joran. Her skin was dull and dim, her eyes heavy. But before she could enter, two shadows appeared behind her. Officers in dark suits. They moved fast, said nothing, and took her without a sound. When Kerala woke, she was not in a cell. She was in a white room, clean, cold, and too bright. Metal bands held her arms and legs in place. She couldn't move. Her skin tried to glow, but the color stayed weak. A man walked into the room. Tall, thin, with smooth hands and eyes that never blinked. He wore a long coat and carried a small data pad. He stopped at her side and looked down at her like she was a puzzle. "You're awake," he said. "Good." She didn't speak. "My name is Saren," the man said. "I run this research center. Don't worry. You're not here to be punished. You're here because you're important." She turned her head away. "You have something inside you," Saran said. "Or maybe around you. We've seen what you can do. Machines respond to you, even old tech. Systems that have been dead for decades come to life in your presence." He tapped the data pad. Screens lit up around the room, showing footage of Kerala in the scrapyard. The drone she had brought back. The heat coil glowing in her hands. The soft light of her skin when she touched broken circuits. "This," Saren said, "is not an accident. Your people, the Marathi, they were made to connect, weren't they? Not just with machines, but with what lies beneath the surface of this colony." Kerala's eyes widened slightly. Saren saw it and smiled. "Yes, we know." He pressed another button. A new screen showed an underground map, lines and shapes glowing beneath the southern ruins. Not natural, not human, something ancient. "There's a vault buried deep below Nolvin's reach," he said. "We discovered it long ago, but it's sealed. Unreadable code, locked tech. Nothing we tried ever worked. But recently, when you got close, the vault responded." He stepped closer. "You're the key." "I'm not a key," Kerala whispered. "I'm a person." "You are both," Saren replied. Meanwhile, above the lab, someone else was moving through the shadows. In a quiet section of the colony, a woman named Orma walked with purpose. She was older, with a mechanical leg and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had once flown ships during the border wars and now fixed power converters for food. She had friends in low places and secrets under her sleeve. She had heard what happened to Joran, and she didn't like it. Within an hour, she was standing in front of Joran's cell. The energy barrier flickered and shut off as she pressed a device to the wall. Joran looked up in surprise. "You want to help your friend?" Orma asked. "Yes," Joran said, standing quickly. "Then follow me." They moved through back corridors and service tunnels, paths sealed off after the last mine collapse. Old routes no one used anymore. The walls dripped with condensation. The air smelled of oil and age. As they walked, Orma explained. "There's a vault under the colony," she said. "Deep, hidden, not built by humans, not even close. The builders left it there. Your girl, she's waking it." "What's inside?" Joran asked. "No one knows," Orma answered. "But the people in charge think it's power. something big. They want to use her to open it. Joran's fists tightened. They can't force her. They'll try, Orma said. Unless we get to her first. In the lab, Kerala sat still in her restraints. The lights had dimmed. Saran was gone. Only the hum of machines kept her company. But below the lab, in the deep earth, something had begun to move. A pulse. A soft vibration. Not noise, but a signal. Kerala felt it. Her skin glowed faintly. Not bright, not strong, but alive. The vault was calling. And she knew somehow that Joran was coming. That thought gave her strength. Her fingers shifted slightly against the metal bands. Her skin turned blue, then white, then soft gold. She breathed deeply and whispered, "Wait for me." Above in the tunnels, Joran and Orma moved faster now. The walls shook slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We're close," Orma said. "Too close. They'll know soon." Joran's heart pounded. He didn't care. He only had one thought left. Reach her, before they made her open something that should have stayed closed. The tunnel opened into a large metal chamber, half buried. Beneath old stone and dust, the air was heavy with silence, but Joran could feel something moving through it. Not wind, not noise. A pulse, like the slow breath of a giant machine just beginning to wake. Beside him, Orma moved with careful steps. Her eyes scanned the walls, alert, as if expecting them to shift without warning. "The vault is just ahead," she said, pointing toward a round door covered in smooth symbols. "They brought her here." Joran stepped forward. The ground trembled beneath his boots. He didn't slow down. He didn't speak. His heart was loud in his chest, louder than the sound of their footsteps. He knew Kerala was near. He could feel her, the same way she once felt the machines whisper around her. On the other side of the vault door, Kerala stood in silence. She was no longer restrained, but she was not free either. Guards stood around her, silent and still. They watched her with wide eyes and tight grips on their weapons. But their hands shook. The air was different now, full of light, full of pressure. The vault had begun to respond. The door glowed with soft colors that shifted with every breath Kerala took. Silver, blue, gold. It was like the metal remembered her, like it was waiting for her return. Saran stood a few steps away, his voice calm but shaking with excitement. "Just touch it," he said. "That's all. Open it. Show us what's inside." Kerala didn't move. She stared at the door. Her skin glowed soft white. Not afraid. Not angry. Only still. "Do you know what's behind it?" she asked. "No one does," Saran admitted. "But we know it responds to you. And that means it's meant for you." "Or meant to be left alone," she said. Saran stepped closer. "You can't ignore what you are." Kerala looked down at her hands. She had always been called cursed, feared, forgotten. But now the machines listened. The vault listened. And for the first time in her life, someone had looked at her without fear. She thought of Joran, the warmth in his hands, the quiet in his eyes, the way he sat with her in silence and never asked for anything. She didn't want to open this place for those who only saw power, but she also knew it was too late. The vault had already begun to open. The symbols on the door lit up. The metal shifted like water bending in slow motion. With a soft sound, almost like a sigh, the vault opened. Inside, there were no walls, only light, and shapes floating in the air. Machines, but not like any she had seen. Smooth, round, glowing, alive. They moved like they were breathing. They turned toward her and paused as if waiting. Saran gasped and stepped forward, raising a scanning device. This is beyond anything." A nearby machine shifted away from him. Not fast, not aggressive. Just rejection. Another machine floated higher and pulsed with light. Saran looked confused. Why aren't they responding? Kerala stepped into the vault. Her skin glowed golden now, mixed with soft blue. The machines turned to her like stars moving through water. They didn't move for power. They moved for memory. Jorn burst into the chamber just as the machines began to hum. The guards turned in panic, but Orma threw a flash device to the floor. White light filled the room. In the confusion, Joran ran forward. "Kerala," he shouted. She turned, her eyes wide. "You came," she said. Saren stepped back, shocked. "How did you get in here?" Joran didn't answer. He only looked at Kerala. Her skin shimmered in, waves of violet and rose. His voice was quiet. "Don't let them use you." She nodded slowly. Then the machines began to rise higher. A ring formed above them, humming softly. Glowing lines filled the air, symbols, maps, memories from another age. They were not threatening. They were not weapons. They were protectors. And they were waking. Saren raised his voice. "Stop this. These machines must be studied. Controlled." Kerala turned to him. "They weren't built to be controlled," she said. "They were built to protect, but only if they believe there's something worth protecting." Her skin lit up in patterns. Gold along her arms, soft blue on her face, silver on her hands. The machines answered. They floated gently above her. No sound. Just peace. Outside, across the colony, machines long forgotten began to stir. Broken bots lifted themselves from piles of ash. Lights flickered back to life. Not all at once, not violent. Just slow, steady return. In the command center, Chief Vorn watched the screens blink out one by one. He stood frozen, unsure whether to call it an invasion or a miracle. In the vault, Saren took a step forward, reaching for Kerala. "You don't understand," he said. "This power, a machine moved between them. It didn't attack. It only glowed." A wave of energy lifted Saran from the floor and gently carried him back outside the vault. Unharmed, but no longer in control. The vault door began to close behind him. Jareen stood beside Kerala, eyes wide with wonder. One of the machines floated down toward him, glowing softly. It paused in front of him. A light moved across his hand. He felt warmth in his chest, like a song he didn't know he remembered. "Why are they looking at me?" he asked. Kerala stepped closer. "Because you believed in me," she said. "You didn't see a danger, you saw a person, and now they believe in you too." Above them, the machines continued to spin, not in chaos, but in rhythm. They weren't just protectors of metal. They were guardians of memory, of life, of peace. The vault pulsed once more, then slowly dimmed. Outside, the colony had changed. Machines now floated gently above the streets, helping repair broken walls, lifting debris, lighting dark corners. No orders, no control, only care. People gathered and stared, not with fear, but with wonder. A child approached Kerala, holding a flower made of old scrap. She knelt and took it. Her skin glowed pink. The flower lit up in her hands. The child laughed. Something had shifted, not just in machines, but in hearts. Time passed, and the vault slept again. But Nolvan's Reach didn't forget. At the edge of the colony, Jorian and Kerala stood side by side, building a new place from the ruins. Not a fortress, a haven, not for power, for peace. For anyone who had ever been cast, aside for anyone who had ever been called dangerous for being different. The stars above blinked slowly as if watching. And in the quiet sky, the machines drifted like lanterns, soft, still, listening.